We're live in 3, 2...
Welcome into LeatherBrainz. Your host, Slap a Dog, here. Before we start today's episode, I do want to apologize and wish everyone a belated happy Memorial Day. We did not do an episode last week because all of us were traveling and busy having a great Memorial Day weekend, so we figured, hey, we're going to take the week off, but we are back, and by we, I mean Scotty Del Rey and myself, because Alan Casanova is still traveling the world. He is a busy man. So it is just Scotty and I today. Before we jump in today's episode, I do want to let everybody know, go follow us over on your favorite social media platforms, as well as YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening to your podcast at. Hit the subscribe button. Really, truly does mean the world. And today, what we are going to be discussing is NFL news. The hot headlines in the NFL. We are going to be talking about it all. And as I mentioned, I am joined today by my very good friend, Scotty Del Rey. Scotty, how you doing, my friend? Did you have a good Memorial Day?
I had a great Memorial Day. I played a lot of chess. I hung out with my brother, came into town.
Nice.
It was a great time.
Your brother has a beard now, it looks like.
Well, kind of. He's got a beard for him and me.
Okay.
But it's not a beard for anyone else. And his official story is that he lost a bet. Or there's some, and he's like, I had to grow it out because I lost it. I'm like, bull fucking shit. You've just never done it before. You wanted to see what it looked like. He's a business owner. He doesn't have anyone to answer to. He's like, I'm just going to look like a moron for a little bit.
That would look nice.
I mean, it looks fine. It doesn't look so ridiculous that you'd laugh at him, which is the goal.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look
Could you
good
grow a
either.
beard? I mean, your mustache is very thick.
Yeah, my facial hair is very thick, except for in two places, and unfortunately those two places are where everything would connect. So because those two less filled in spots, it looks very dumb when I try and grow a beard. If I grow it really long, it can cover it to some degree, but then I kind of look like a hobo. So that's why I rock the mustache. I keep it nice and tight.
I do like the mustache. It is a good look. And it looks like, I
Makes
can't
me
tell
look
if it's the
trustworthy.
shadow on the camera, or do you have like a little soul patch thing going on here too?
I probably do. I only shave that like once every couple times I shave, so
It looks kind of cool.
sometimes
I
it's
think
there,
you should let the
sometimes
soul
it's not.
patch come out too. Let it come out to play.
so?
Yeah, give it a little soul.
Do I look like Zorro or like a French swordsman?
I think if you started carrying a rapier on your
A
side.
rapier?
Yeah.
That's a dangerous word to say into a microphone.
I
Could be easily misconstrued.
was very concerned saying it. Mostly because I wanted to make sure I enunciated and said the word correctly. It is a sword.
I don't know what that is. I'm going to look it up.
It's a little French sword. It's what they use for sparring matches, I believe.
Oh. Rapier.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think I'm going to buy one of those.
Well, if you threw one of those in a cape on, I would definitely, it would definitely add your swag level up a little bit. Kids, are people still saying swag?
I think so. Maybe.
You'd be swagged out.
I don't know. I'm like the worst person to ask those kinds of questions to, because I don't know what the fuck's going on in our culture.
I don't either.
I just stay in this room my whole life.
You just live in this one singular room and you're just plugged in. But
Pretty
solely
much.
in NFL content, which is what we're here to discuss today. So let's jump in. If you're obsessed with NFL RedZone, much like you and I are, Scotty, we are diehard RedZone fans. I am pleased to announce that Scott Hansen is returning for yet another year of NFL RedZone. However, there is a caveat to this, Scotty. It is no longer commercial-free football. That is one of his taglines.
Already.
Yeah, I know. But I wanted to just kind of restate that, rehash that.
Yeah, I mean, that is very disappointing, but honestly, the product is so much superior compared to everything else that I can deal with a couple commercials. No big deal. And Scott Hansen is like, there's a very short list of people in the world that are universally liked, and Scott Hansen is one of those people. Like Betty White, is she still alive, or did she die?
No, I think she passed, unfortunately.
She was on that list. Alex Trebek was on that list, but he also died. So the list is getting smaller, and Scott Hansen is still on.
Foreshadowing that Scott Hansen's next in line to pass?
I don't know if he's next. We all die.
That's true.
But I hope Scott lives another 100 years and continues to do NFL RedZone until they're, robots and AI playing football.
You know what? Not a lot of people know this, but there actually was 2 different NFL RedZones. Are you aware of that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so there was 2 different NFL RedZones. I didn't find this out until I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago, but I was mind blown when this happened. There was another NFL RedZone. So I didn't watch the one with Scott Hansen. I watched the one with, God, what's his name? He did a really good job as well.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about now that you say it.
NFL commentator with big ears. He has huge ears. He looks like an elf.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Andrew Siciliano.
Starts with an S, yeah.
Yeah. Andrew Siciliano. And he did a really good job as well. So I don't, as long as you're a decent commentator, I think everybody's going to universally love you if you're doing NFL RedZone because it is that superior product.
Yeah, the product is awesome. But honestly, it's easy for us to sit on our couch for 7 hours of once commercial-free football and be like, yeah, this is great. But can you imagine doing that job?
No, it would be
I feel like it
difficult.
would be really hard.
It would be very difficult.
It'd be really hard. But you only work 1 day a week.
It's true.
Probably.
Well, I don't know. I imagine they have like rehearsals and like get prep ready, and so it's probably like a 2 or 3 day job. But it would be a very difficult thing to do. So, regardless, I am excited that Scott Hansen is going to be back. He is our huge fan of ours, and we are huge fans of his. So excited to have him back for RedZone again. Pivoting over, let's talk about Stefon Diggs. This is kind of something that's been making headlines here recently. So the Patriots may be looking to potentially cut Stefon Diggs per numerous reports after a video surfaced that this past weekend, Stefon Diggs, he was partying on a boat with rapper and girlfriend Cardi B. The party wasn't the problem, Scotty. All the NFL players are partying. They're all partying on boats. They're all having a great time. The problem is Stefon Diggs was handing out little pink baggies to some of the party goers, and apparently it was not colored flour in these baggies. It is
Pop Rocks, maybe.
I don't think it was pop. I think it was cocaine. I think
pink cocaine. I don't know
that's
anything
speculation.
about cocaine.
I don't either.
I didn't know it was pink.
I thought it was white, but
I guess you can make cocaine probably any color.
I don't know. I don't know how to make cocaine.
Wow.
But they used to put it in Coca-Cola, so I think you can do anything with it, really.
Yeah. I don't know. This whole thing is weird. One big red flag. Stefon Diggs is a giant walking red flag just because of his personality and just everything about him is just like, I don't know. Maybe when your play was electric on the field every game, okay. But now you've gotten to the point in your career where it's like, you're kind of like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type talent, assuming you can stay healthy.
I don't think he is, though. I still think he's like fringe wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 level. He got hurt last year. Yeah. He was on a 1-year deal with the Texans. ACL went out, so he's not going to start in the event that he is still on the roster with the Patriots, which I'm assuming he will be. I think they're just going to kind of let this breeze over. They need him. I think they really do need him because if you look at the wide receiver room for the Patriots, Stefon Diggs is a clear number 1 wide receiver for that team, even given his age and coming off of an ACL injury. If he has any semblance of what he formerly did on the NFL field, I think he's a great addition for this team. I think the problem now is just the cocaine, the cocaine allegations make it to the point where he is no longer going to be on the team.
Honestly, the cocaine bothers me less than dating Cardi B. Only a lunatic would date Cardi B. That's like, you go to interview with an NFL team and they're like, we'd love to have you. We think your talent's great. Just a few things. Are you dating any psychotic rappers who have like admitted to drugging and stealing from men in hotel rooms? Yeah. Okay. No, we're not interested. Like, that's an insane thing to do. And have you ever listened to Cardi B talk? She makes me want to bash my head into a brick wall. I'm sure she's very nice.
It sounds like she's not very nice. It sounds like she's drugging men and stealing their things.
She did do that and admitted to it. And for some reason, nobody cares.
Yeah,
but
I think that's just once you're famous, nobody cares if you break the law.
Yeah, once you get a BBL, then you can do whatever you want. Licensed to rape or not rape.
Rapier.
I don't think she raped anyone. Maybe though, if she's drugging them and then having sex.
Yeah, but she was a stripper, so I imagine the roles largely could have been reversed. Yeah, if they're in a hotel room with her, I would imagine it was consensual.
It was consensual up until the point that all their money was stolen.
That doesn't sound like it would be consensual. But if you're going to take a stripper into a hotel room and you have money with you, I would presume you would be giving that. I guess at that point, it's not even a stripper. What are they?
Prostitute.
Yeah.
If you're paying them for sex.
Yeah.
Unless you put a camera up and then it's just pornography and totally illegal.
Totally
now we're getting
legal?
on a tangent. Yeah, legal. It's legal to have sex for money as long as it's on camera and posted on the internet.
Sweet.
But if you take the camera out, then it's prostitution. It's illegal. Pretty weird.
That is a weird loophole. You just put cameras up everywhere and just start having sex and give somebody $5 and be like, well done.
$5. I'd pay you more than $5 for sex.
Thanks, man. I'd also pay you.
I'd go up to $7.50.
Call it an even crisp $10 bill. They'll give me a little Caesar's pizza for the ride home.
Yeah. You buy me a Chipotle burrito bowl, I'll do whatever you want.
Extra guac, baby. So Stefon Diggs, I mean, I think they're gonna let this breeze over. Mikey Vrabes, head coach for the Patriots, was asked in a presser if he was aware of this. He said he was. Doesn't seem like they're gonna do anything.
Well, what do you want us to do? We need a wide receiver. The only ones available to us are on cocaine and dating strippers. What do you want? What do you expect?
I do think I for all of the fantasy football fans out there, I think Diggs is a really great late round grab in fantasy football. I'm not trying to show my hand too much, but he's going in like the 7th or the 8th round right now to get somebody who he won't start the season because his ACL issue type thing. But once he's able to play, that's a great late round grab. That's a little tidbit of slapdog knowledge for all of our brainiacs out there.
Yeah, I agree. The ceiling is definitely high, especially if Drake May continues to improve.
And I think he will.
If you're the wide receiver one with Drake May and he's improving, and now Vrabel's there, and hopefully that makes a big benefit.
I got Trey Henderson there. I mean, things are they're putting pieces together, and I think the Patriots are potentially an up and coming team. And I do like Drake May. I think he's obviously talented. He's got some rushing upside there, and I think that he was surrounded by a bunch of buffoons in the Patriots organization, and bringing Mike Vrabel in, creating some stability there. I expect the Patriots to, I don't think they're a playoff contending team this year, but I want to see some improvement from Drake May, and I think we will this year with Mike Vrabel and starting to gather the pieces that they need in order to succeed. So excited for that. We're talking about quarterbacks. Let's talk about Joe Flacco. He answered some questions this past week about him being a mentor for young quarterbacks. And his response, I actually kind of like his response. It was very blunt. And he said, well, it's one of those questions that no matter what I say, you guys can write what you want to write about. And he said, I'm not a mentor. I'm here to play football. And I think that is... You find yourself in a catch-22 there, because we all know who Joe Flacco is. We all know what Joe Flacco is. He's kind of a bridge quarterback that will probably get a couple starts to begin the season, and we'll see what happens there. But when you ask him that question, you force him into one of two answers. One is, yeah, I'm here to mentor these guys, which clearly he's not. He wants to play football, and that's why he's continuing to play football. Or he says no, and he looks like an asshole. So it's really a catch-22 and a lose-lose situation, because if you're playing in the NFL, you're a competitor. You're there to compete. You want to compete for a roster spot. You want to compete for playing time on the field. You are a high-level competitor if you're playing at that level, right? So to actively say, like, yeah, I'm just here to... I'm a locker room guy. I'm here to have fun and teach these guys how to do this. Nobody's actually doing that. And that doesn't mean that you can't help them learn and process things better and be that. But you want to be on the field. You want to be playing. And so he's not going to come out and say that. But the inverse is now it's either that or he looks like an asshole. So I like this honesty from Joe Flacco. I like the fact that he's saying this. And to be quite honest, I think that's a stupid question to ask a quarterback. And yes, his age and the where he is in his career, obviously he's not a franchise quarterback for any team. So the situation lends credence to why you would ask that question, but what a stupid question to ask in general to a quarterback of his where he's at in his career.
See, I don't actually think it's that stupid of a question. Obviously, you're right that it's kind of a lose-lose situation for Joe Flacco, but I don't necessarily blame them for asking the question, because if Joe Flacco was signed to the Commanders, then it would be totally acceptable for him to be like, yeah, I'm here to be a mentor. Like, the reason that the question is asked is because there's so much unanswered. There are so many unanswered questions about the quarterback room in general, and it's interesting to sort of see how Joe Flacco sees the situation, because there are some people who are like, Shador is the future. He's going to be great. There are some people who think other quarterbacks are going to be great. There are some people who are like, Joe Flacco is going to start the whole year because everybody else is ass. So it's kind of interesting to get Joe Flacco's take on it. Obviously, you're not surprised by the fact that he wants to compete for the job, but again, depending on who the younger quarterback is in the locker room, I think his answer would change. If he was on the Commanders or if he was on the Patriots, I think his answer would change a little bit. And so the fact that he's like, I'm here to play football, I'll mentor by, I'll lead by example sort of thing, that shows that he's like, these young guys, they are what they are, but I still plan on starting. I still plan on playing for this team. So it is interesting.
The Browns quarterback room is very muddy. I mean, we knew that. We've kind of talked about it. We have, I'm just going to go down the list. I mean, we have Joe Flacco. We have Super Bowl winning quarterback Kenny Pickett. We have Dylan Gabriel drafted in the 3rd round this year. And then we have Shedeur Sanders, who was drafted in the 5th round. And Deshaun Watson. I mean, I guess he's still currently on the roster. I kind of forgot to throw him in there. What do you make? What is this? Here's what I see as a realistic outcome here. I do think Joe Flacco, there's a potential that either him or Kenny Pickett is going to start the year. I don't think either of them finish the year. And I think, in your mind, is there a real chance that Shedeur Sanders is the franchise quarterback for the Browns? Like, moving forward, by the end of the season, do we get that impression? Or is it Dylan Gabriel? I mean, what do you make of this situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mess. They have taken the approach of quantity over quality with the Cleveland Browns, for sure. And I think anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen is lying to your face. Nobody knows how this is going to pan out. I think what you said is the most likely outcome, starting with the veteran, whether that's Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. I lean more towards Joe Flacco, just given the success that he's seen relatively recently. I think it makes the most sense to put your money on him. But one of these young guys is probably going to end up taking over, whether it's halfway through the year or toward the end of the year or going into next year. Like, it's only a matter of time before someone like Shedeur or someone like Dylan Gabriel get their opportunity. And then it's just a matter of if they can perform on the field. I still think with someone like Shedeur, like, the likelihood that he is a successful NFL quarterback is totally up in the air. Because even at his time with Colorado, he obviously had some flashy plays. He's got a nice highlight reel. But he was on a team that had a pretty bad offensive line. He was on a team that had a bunch of weapons. And so it's difficult to know, like, where things cancel out and where his skill set, carried them, or where the people around him carried them, or where the offensive line suppressed his potential. Like, it's just so difficult to know that information. And this is just one of those things that we're going to have to see how it plays out. Unfortunately for the Browns, they do not have a very good track record of making good decisions. So who knows? Like, just because maybe Shedeur is the best quarterback in the room, that doesn't mean he's going to play. Maybe Dylan Gabriel is the best quarterback in the room. That doesn't mean he's going to play. That doesn't mean they're going to make the right choice. I think if you're sitting here saying, yeah, Shedeur is definitely going to be the guy, or Kenny Pickett's going to make a resurgence, nobody knows. You don't know what you're talking about. We just have to sit back and wait.
If you were a starting quarterback, if you were a rookie quarterback this year, you were drafted this year, what team would you rather go to? The New York Jets or the Cleveland Browns? Because you think of both these teams, look at Baker Mayfield. He was with the Browns. He was finding success with the Browns, you can put air quotes over the word success, but look what he's doing now with Tampa, right? Sam Darnold, he was with the Jets. He signed, and I don't think Sam Darnold's a world beater, but he signed a 3-year deal with the Seahawks. If you were a starting quarterback, which organization would you rather be with right now? Because I think they've both shown that they are horrible at trying to develop quarterbacks and get this thing figured out.
Yeah, it's not really a good choice. It's kind of interesting because it's not, neither of them are good choices, but both of them have a lot of upside. I mean, both of them are similar to like the Bears situation with Caleb Williams. If you go in and you find success, they're going to love you. You're going to be there for as long as you want to be there. Like the upside is unlimited with those teams, just because of how kind of pitiful they've been recently. I think if I had to choose, I'm going with Stefanski. Like, that's the difference maker, is having a head coach that I have relatively high confidence in. The Jets are just kind of all up in the air. Who knows what that's going to be? I like the Jets roster better, I think. But I think the head coach makes a big difference for me.
Do you think Stefanski's on the hot seat? Not you personally, but do you think, like, not asking, do you think he should be on the hot seat, but do you get the impression that as a community of the NFL that he is on the hot seat?
Yeah, unfortunately, when you don't find success, the organization has to make changes, and that's just the reality of the situation. He's similar to Brian Dable. I don't think Stefanski is the problem. In fact, I think he's one of the linchpins that have allowed them to attain what little success they have been able to attain. But when you're losing and your roster is crazy and the fan base is restless, you have to make changes. So I think it would be crazy for the Browns to come out and be like, no, Stefanski's fine. Like, we're whatever. I think they're fluid right now, and they're going to base it on the success that they have or the failures that they have in the near future. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's fired in the next couple of years, but I wouldn't support that decision.
Okay. Well, let's go over and let's talk about some tight ends. And we're not talking about Cardi B, Scotty. We're talking about PFF ranked top 32 tight ends ahead of the 2025 season. Here are the top 5 in order: George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta. And then other tight ends of mention. We have Travis Kelce at number 7, Dalton Kincaid at 10, and Mr. Kyle Pitts at 19.
Top 20, baby.
Is that how we're viewing this right now? Is he's still in the top 20?
I don't know. Kyle Pitts is an enigma.
Do you think that this is correct? Do you think that this ranking of these tight ends, at least in the top 5, do you think they're accurate, or would you have any pivots or moves you would make here, aside from maybe putting Kyle Pitts for yourself at number 1?
Yeah, of course, Kyle Pitts is the number 1 tight end. Blessed be unto him always. But the top 5, I think you could probably mix and match a little bit on this list, but I think the top 5 is pretty solid. Travis Kelce is old and he moves around like a bag of rickety old bones, so I couldn't put him in the top 5 despite his success at this point in his career. All of these tight ends are good. Mark Andrews had a tough year last year, but I think if he bounces back, I mean, he could easily finish the 2025 season at the top of this list. Mark Andrews has that capability.
I don't think he will.
I don't think he will either. I don't think the Ravens are going over the hill a little bit. I think they're going to be on the downward trajectory. But I do think, someone like George Kittle, it's difficult not to put George Kittle on the top of the list because he is so well-rounded as a tight end. So many of these players like Brock Bowers and Sam Laporta, like they're kind of electric playmakers, but they leave a little bit to be desired in the other elements of being a tight end. And George Kittle is just so well-rounded. He does everything well. And I know he's getting a little bit older. It is what it is, but I do think it's fair to have him at the top of the list. And ultimately, the list is pretty good, in my opinion.
Okay. I was interested to see, I would have presumed they would put Brock Bowers at number 1 and George Kittle at number 2. And that's largely based on the insane success that Bowers had last season. I mean, that in and of itself was, it was a historic season for a rookie tight end. You look at the situation that the Raiders are currently in, they upgraded their quarterback, they upgraded their running back, they drafted a wide receiver hopeful, but by and large, Brock Bowers is still the wide receiver 1 for this team. He is still the leading receiver for this team going into this season. I expected him to be a number 1, but to be quite honest, you could make the same argument for George Kittle. I mean, Brandon Ayuk is injured. He's not going to start the season. Is it going to be Juwan Jennings? Is it going to be Ricky Pearsall, or is it still going to be George Kittle? And I do think that George Kittle is still going to be a huge target hog for this team. So I understand both those. As an Arizona fan, I like Trey McBride. I think he's a phenomenal tight end and think that he will still find success. Mark Andrews, I don't think will. I think that even by the end of this season, it could be Isaiah Likely's job over there with the Ravens. Just like you mentioned moments ago, the Ravens are kind of coming over the hill there. I think that that's true. I think they signed D-Hop. He still probably has some gas left in the tank, but how much? Mark Andrews isn't getting any younger, and he was not the same Mark Andrews that we've seen the last few seasons, and it showed. I think that Mark Andrews is a huge candidate to fall off this list here by the end of the season, and it would not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, the Ravens as an organization are interesting. Before we got into the studio here, we were having a conversation via text message with our other members of the LeatherBrainz team. And we were talking about, I guess by the time you hear this, it'll probably already be out and available. But we're talking about different ideas to discuss on social media, and we were talking about each of our top 5 teams. And a couple of us listed the Lions ahead of the Ravens, and a couple other people in the chat thought that was crazy. And I don't think that's crazy at all. I think the Lions have the best roster in the NFL, maybe not against the Eagles, but pretty much everybody else. They're the most well-rounded team in the NFL. And they have stars everywhere. The Ravens I just see as a team that, they haven't quite done it. I just don't see them.
They're one injury away. in almost every
they have
position.
to make a statement this year. If they don't make a statement this year, it's like people are going to start thinking, okay, what's the roster turnover look like? Like, what changes do they have to make? And you have to start asking those hard questions like now. People are talking about the Ravens like they're like a shoo-in to be a Super Bowl contender. And it's like, I'm looking at it the complete opposite way. Like, they have something to prove right now. And if they don't do it right now, there are hard questions that have to be answered.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that they are one injury away in almost every position from their season starting to decline rapidly. What happens if Derrick Henry, and we don't root for injuries here, but what happens if Derrick Henry tears his ACL? I mean, he's done. He's done at the age that he is at. Yes, he's still performing at a high level, and I hope that doesn't happen, but that's a realistic conversation that isn't really being had. What happens if D-Hop breaks his knee or Zay Flowers hurts himself? Like, those are really Mark Andrews. I mean, these are all aging assets that are slowing down, aside from maybe Derrick Henry. But they're one injury away, where I think that if they do see some injuries, which happen throughout the NFL season by every team, what are they? And I don't think Lamar Jackson is... I don't think this is a hot take, but I'm going to say it. Like, Lamar Jackson is not nearly as big of a difference maker as somebody like Josh Allen, right? And
yeah, I think a lot of people would argue with that. But
I think they would.
I think Lamar Jackson, his career is interesting because when he is on, he is arguably among the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But he has this tendency where he's on like 75% of the time. And the other 25%, he's not just like subpar, he collapses. And we've seen that over and over again with Lamar Jackson. So the question is this, like, I go back to the Lions comparison. The Lions are so deep at every position, like every position. They are so good all over the place. And yes, you would argue that the Ravens have obviously a better quarterback than the Lions do, but the compilation of the entire roster is like, okay, if somebody has an off night or if there's an injury, like, you can still have faith that the Lions are going to compete at a high level.
Yeah.
The Ravens are like walking on razor's edge. Like any little downturn is not only has the potential to turn their season down, but also has the potential to turn the entire NFL community against them. Like, they're like, okay, like they're one bad season away from being the Dallas Cowboys. Like they're right there.
That's
they're
a
right
great
there
comparison, I think, because the Cowboys get it done in the regular season and then they get to the playoffs and first round, thanks for coming. And I think that's kind of what the Ravens have been or will be. I've said this before. Lamar Jackson will never win a Super Bowl. I really don't believe he ever will. I don't think he has that it factor to get it done, and or a team around him in which can elevate him, kind of like the Lions can, where they are so deep in every position. They have so much talent in every position that they are able to overcome some of those adversities in the event that an injury happens. I don't think the Ravens
We saw the Lions competing at a high level last year, despite the fact that they had to replace like 11 people on their defense.
Yeah.
So they had to replace their entire defense, and they were still competing at a very high level pretty much until the end. Like, the Ravens could never do that.
I don't think so, no. So I want to go back to tight ends because I have a couple more questions kind of focused around the tight ends. We kind of talked about regression and the tight ends that we see regressing. I think namely Mark Andrews is the one that sticks out. I think Travis Kelce is another candidate for continued regression. They have him at 7. I think there is a world in which Travis Kelce continues to fall lower and lower on that list. I like Travis Kelce. I think he's a good tight end, but we saw it last year. We saw it start to happen last year. And I think, as Rashee Rice comes back, you've got Xavier Worthy in the fold. I think that you're going to see those guys continue to carry the flag, so to speak, and Travis Kelce starts to or continues to fade in his performance. And I think that's just the reality of it. I do want to ask you about Kyle Pitts.
Okay, go ahead.
So they got him ranked at 19. Is this is it Kyle Pitts no matter what, or are we finally going to bury that? Aside from his rookie season, it's been no matter. There's been, what have you done? Kyle Pitts has not performed at all, and that's continued. And can we finally be done with Kyle Pitts? Are you finally willing to give up on Kyle Pitts and what he is?
You're gonna be mad at what I'm about to say.
Okay,
but I'm gonna say it anyway. The 2025 season is Kyle Pitts' best chance to be an elite tight end, because if things go according to plan, they finally have a quarterback that they're going to stick with. Because that's been the problem. Kyle Pitts, yes, he had an awesome rookie season, but the problem with the Falcons overall is their lack of competent quarterback play since Kyle Pitts has been there. And that continued last year where, they brought Kirk Cousins in. I was a big fan of that move. I thought Kirk Cousins would be a big difference maker there, but he played okay. It wasn't terrible. They were competing for the division until they benched him. But then they decided to bench him, and so there was more quarterback turnover. And so any playmaker in any offense, if you don't have a quarterback or there's quarterback turnover, it's going to be difficult for you to compete at a really high level. That's not to say that he will, because there are kind of a lot of offensive weapons on this team. So whether or not Kyle Pitts is able to rise above the fray in that regard, I don't know. But I think having a quarterback that, okay, they bench Kirk Cousins, they're sticking with Penix. Now they have a quarterback that they know is going to play aside, from the possibility of injury for the entire season. This is the opportunity for the playmakers to get comfortable, to step up and actually have offensive production at a high level. Kyle Pitts could very well be involved in that. So I think if you're one of these people like me who have just had faith that eventually Kyle Pitts is going to come back and he's going to be awesome, you got to stick it out for one more year, because if it doesn't happen this year, you kind of run out of excuses. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no matter what, of course. But if you're a reasonable person, then yes, this is kind of the make or break year. But it also there should be some optimism around Kyle Pitts and every other playmaker on their offense this season, because they finally have a quarterback that everyone knows is just going to be there.
I don't think he's good
all the time.
I don't think he's good. I think it's
okay.
going to be Darnell Mooney. If you want to pick somebody aside from Drake London or Bijan Robinson on this Falcons roster that's going to perform at a higher level, I think it's Darnell Mooney. I don't think it's Kyle Pitts. I don't think Kyle Pitts is it.
And that's a big problem. It's a problem for fantasy managers. It's not a problem for the Falcons, because the Falcons look at their team and they're like, we got weapons everywhere. This is one of the reasons I was high on them last season. They have weapons on the offensive side everywhere. And then in the offseason now they've addressed, hopefully, some of these defensive concerns and pass rushing concerns. But they have weapons everywhere. If you can get a quarterback who gets comfortable and feels confident in this offense, this is an offense that could take a massive step forward in 2025. But we only saw, a quarter of a season from Penix. He played okay, but we don't really know yet. And it's because there's just been so much turnover at the most important position on the team.
Okay. Well, there were three tight ends that were drafted fairly high in this last draft here, namely Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, and Mason Taylor. Do any of these guys you see shooting up the list whatsoever and could maybe crack the top 10 even?
If I had to choose, I would choose Loveland, but it's more about the team around him than it is him. I won't pretend to be an expert on the rookie class. I'm not. But when I look at Chicago, I see a team that has potential to take a big step forward. When I look at the Colts, when I look at the Jets, I see more question marks than anything else. So that's not to say that the talent from the tight end can be enough to rise them up into a top 5 position. That's what we saw from Brock Bowers in a subpar offense. So it's possible, but I would say if I were to put my money on any of these three, it would be Loveland in Chicago. But again, they run into a similar problem with Kyle Pitts. There are so many weapons there now, and they've got so many options.
That's why I struggled to put Loveland. Loveland was drafted at a high draft capital. And some of the things that I look at here are the Bears as an entire team. And the issue that I see with Loveland is there are so many mouths to feed in this offense.
Yeah.
And that's what concerns me. The draft capital is beautiful. And Ben Johnson being an offensive mind, for him to say, hey, this is the guy I want. Loveland was a great tight end in college. Those are all great, but you still have DJ Moore. You still have, they drafted Luther Burden, and that's really interesting because now he's going to be a slot guy. You have Roma Dunze. And the thing that really interests me is there were a lot, it should be of no surprise to anybody that this rookie draft was very, very loaded with running backs. And you look at what Ben Johnson did when he was with the Lions. He had David Montgomery and he had Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And so it has been a two-headed beast back there where both are very valued and used in that system. Now he has DeAndre Swift. They didn't draft a running back. And I think not Bijan, why can I not think of his name? He went to the Raiders. Ashton Genty. If Ashton Genty was there, they would have taken him. And they said that. But they didn't take a running back at all in this draft. And they if people have been following the NFL long enough, they would know that Ben Johnson has had the DeAndre Swift experience once before. He was with the Lions, and then DeAndre Swift went to the Eagles, and then he ended up with the Bears, and then Ben Johnson ended up with the Bears. And he didn't really address the running back room, meaning DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson, are they going to be a two-headed beast? DeAndre Swift is a one-year rental for fantasy in my mind, but all's to say, there are a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, and for him to draft Luther Burden, a wide receiver, when they already had two competent wide receivers, that's interesting. And then they drafted tight end when they already had Cole Kmet, another interesting thing. So there's a lot going on here, and it makes me hard to believe Colson Loveland could reach a top 10 level just because of spreading the ball around as much as I presume the Bears are going to. The person that I really see that stands out here potentially is Tyler Warren. With the Colts. And if you look at Tyler Warren and you watch film on Tyler Warren in college, the kid's a freak. He's huge. They did a lot with him in college. Like, they were lining him up in Wildcat and having him run the ball. They were using him in a lot of different ways, and he is an athletic specimen. And I look at the Colts team. The Colts, kind of like Brock Bowers a little bit last year, didn't have a lot to work with. And that's kind of where the Colts, I think the Colts are in a little bit more favorable situation than the Raiders were last season, but there are a lot of similarities in my mind. Yes, they have John Taylor. Yes, they have Michael Pittman. But there is an opportunity for Tyler Warren to potentially be the wide receiver one for this team. And I know he's a tight end, but he could be the main target there. The question at hand is, who's his quarterback? Is it going to be
that's
Anthony
a big
Richardson?
question.
Is it going to be Daniel Jones?
When we're talking about the likelihood of a pass catcher exceeding expectations and flying up the ranks, yes, Brock Bowers did it. It's rare. It's rare to do. You have to be an exceptional talent to find a lot of success with, for lack of a better term, kind of a shitty quarterback situation. And maybe Daniel.
I think that's where it kind of helps him a little bit, and why I might be more excited about Tyler Warren is because you think of the two quarterbacks we're mentioning. Are they going to be checking it down to the tight end more instead of going for a deep ball, perhaps with Pittman, 25 yards down the field? I think that could be a safety blanket for them and could benefit Tyler Warren in his production, which could move him up this list.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because whenever you have a quarterback with rushing upside, which both Daniel Jones and Richardson obviously do, the pass catchers can really be a victim of that and not be as involved because, the quarterback, as opposed to checking it down, might run it. But it's also true that quarterbacks who are more mobile do tend to gravitate toward the tight end because the tight end is running those short and intermediate routes that give them that release valve that they can take when they're running outside the pocket. Again, it's just there are so many questions with all three of these guys. I would tend to lean. The reason I lean toward Loveland is just because I have more faith in the team. If the team finds offensive success, there's going to be more opportunities for each one of those players to make an impact. I don't see the Colts having a lot of success. I don't see the Jets having a lot of success. And so I think Warren could end up being the best player on the Colts. What does that mean in relation to other tight ends around the league? I don't know.
Well, and we could have had this exact same conversation about Brock Bowers last year, and you would be saying the same thing.
It's true, but I think Brock Bowers is the exception.
Sure, and I'm not saying Tyler Warren is going to be Brock Bowers. I don't believe that. But I think that if I was to pick between these three guys as far as potential opportunity, there's too much opportunity for Loveland given the roster, and there's a good amount of opportunity for Tyler Warren given the roster on the Colts. And so it's nobody knows, and that's why we're having this conversation, is because there are differing opinions here. And Mason Taylor's another one that's just kind of interesting. I mean, was drafted quite highly with the Jets, and you have Justin Fields there. A lot of people, including yourself, are pretty high on Justin Fields and what the Jets are going to potentially be able to do here.
Well,
I'm not
relatively high. Relatively.
I did say that. Relative, which is
you said pretty, which could be misconstrued.
I think I said relatively.
I don't think the Jets are going to be good. I think we're going to see Justin Fields have maybe the best year of his career, but that's not saying much.
I don't think we will. That's me. I'm not buying in on this. And a lot of people are. You're not the only one. So I don't want you to seem like you're in a camp all by yourself. There are quite a few people in the NFL community.
I'll lead the camp right into hell if I need to.
But Mason Taylor's another one. I mean, is Justin Fields going to be able to air it long? He found some success with DJ Moore. I think Mason Taylor's a candidate as well. I do, for kind of the same reasons we mentioned for Tyler Warren as far as opportunity. And you have Garrett Wilson. You've kind of got... I don't even know what's going to happen with Breece Hall, to be quite honest, because Aaron Glenn has said that, he wants a committee backfield, and so is Breece Hall losing his time there. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Haven't had a rushing quarterback within the last couple of years, and so within the last lot of years, and that's kind of what Justin Fields offers them. So what does that look like? Potentially tight end dump offs, as we kind of mentioned with Tyler Warren. So it'll be interesting. But if I was to pick between the three, I'm going to take Tyler Warren. That's who I'm gonna stake my claim into. I think between these three tight ends, he will finish the highest this season.
I personally hope they all are legends and Hall of Famers, and everyone has a fun time. That's what
everyone
I hope. Everybody has a good time.
You know who is having a fun time, Scotty? It's Saquon Barkley, because his disgusting backwards hurdle that he did this last season is now the cover of Madden 2026. I bring all this up. Are we concerned about the Madden curse, and Barkley is now undraftable this year in fantasy football due to him being on the front of Madden?
Patrick Mahomes killed the Madden curse. He was on Madden, and then he won a Super Bowl. So
it's true.
As far as I'm concerned, the thing about the Madden curse, obviously it's kind of silly and fun to joke around about. But the reason that the Madden curse is the thing is because most players, regardless of whether you're on the cover of Madden or not, do not win the Super Bowl. There are a lot of injuries. There are a lot of things that go wrong. There are this and that. And so odds are, if you're on the cover of Madden, odds are you're not going to win the Super Bowl. Odds are something catastrophic is going to happen that's going to derail your season. Like, that happens to almost every NFL team every year. So that's why people associate it with a curse. In reality, Saquon Barkley is potentially the best running back in the NFL, maybe behind CMC if they're both healthy. Saquon Barkley has the best, if not, I guess, one of, if not the best offensive lines in the NFL. Saquon Barkley is on a team with a ton of weapons and proven success. There's no reason that we shouldn't assume Saquon Barkley is going to be a beast for the rest of his tenure with the Eagles.
Could we not guess that this was going to be the Madden cover, though? Like, that was I remember watching that play live and was like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, that was a feat that I've never seen. I mean, you could talk about the OBJ one-handed catch, and he kind of trademarked that. Now you see players do it every now and then. But to hurdle somebody backwards it's amazing. It was incredible. Did you see the
video of them shooting the photo for the cover of Madden, where they basically they didn't take it from the game footage. They redid the situation in a studio where they could take a picture of it, and just watch it. It's like, Saquon Barkley's such a freak, dude. Like, just watching him standing hurdle a guy, like, just for the picture, he floated in the air for like 11 seconds. Like, this dude is a superhuman. Like, honestly, just watching the recreation of it, I was impressed. Like, let alone what actually happened on the field. And you're right, the comparison with the OBJ catch is apt. The difference is, I don't think we're ever going to see someone do that again with Saquon Barkley.
No,
like,
I don't
it's
think
just
we will.
Like, that situation is just never going to happen again. Like, it called me back to my childhood and watching LaDainian Tomlinson just smoke everyone on the field, and it was just, watching it just made me feel like a kid again. Like, that's the kind of shit that we watch football for right there. Yeah. Saquon Barkley, and also, he's an awesome guy, and I just, like, nothing but love to that guy. He's amazing.
No, congratulations to him, and hopefully the curse is a thing of the past. Let's pivot over. Let's talk about some tight ends again, Scotty, because there's been some trade chatter regarding Dolphins tight end Jonnu Smith to the Steelers. This, to me, is comical. This happened, I believe, late last week is when this news had kind of broke that there was a potential trade that may or may not happen there. I don't think I've seen two fan bases come together in uproar about them both equally not wanting a trade to happen. Like, the Dolphins camp is like, do not fucking do this trade. And the Steelers are like, why would you ever do this trade? We don't even have a quarterback. What the hell are you doing? So it was really funny to go and read all the comments and all the fans in uproar about that. But I bring this up. Is Arthur Smith just a sicko for Jonnu Smith? Like, is Arthur Smith? This is breaking news, Scotty, here at LeatherBrainz.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm ready. Take a breath.
Arthur Smith is in love with Jonnu Smith sexually. He wants Jonnu Smith because every single time Arthur Smith has a say in anything, he goes out and gets Jonnu Smith and brings him back home. He did it with the Falcons, and now he's trying to do it with the Steelers. Why do you need a tight end? Pat Freiermuth is... I mean, if you want to argue that Jonnu Smith is better than Pat Freiermuth, fine. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about it. But you have a competent tight end in Pat Freiermuth. It's not like you're desperately in need for a decent tight end. And Jonnu Smith did have a really great year to end last year, but you don't need it. What's your wide receiver room look like? You got DK Metcalf and a whole lot of nothing. You don't have a quarterback, and yet you're going to go out and say, hey, let's get this tight end. We really need him. It's going to be a huge difference maker for us. Makes no sense to me.
I'll make it make sense. I'm going to update breaking news.
Okay.
More breaking news. Arthur Smith is Jonnu Smith's dad. That's why they have the same name. That's why he always wants to be on the same team. He just wants to see his son succeed. That's all it is. And, they don't look a lot alike, but, biology's kind of weird. So sometimes shit like that happens.
Breaking news. I did not know that. Jonnu Smith is the son of former Falcons head coach and current offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. Pervert.
Yeah. Does he still have a mustache, though? Because that makes me like him a little more.
I hate Arthur Smith with a passion. There's nobody I would rather see get
TV
fired in the NFL than Arthur Smith. I think he should be relegated to kids like high school football, but my concern is he's a pervert and he shouldn't be in a high school.
He can't go to high school football because he's not going to be able to get Jonnu Smith on a high school roster.
He's like, my son's aged out of high school.
Or go to Canada.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Arthur Smith has a job. I really don't. He's a creepy looking dude too.
You think he's going to be able to rein in Aaron Rodgers whenever that happens?
Well, let's talk about that.
I think before we get into the Aaron Rodgers talk, the dynamic of Arthur Smith trying to tell Aaron Rodgers what to do is very funny to me. Like, I can just imagine Aaron Rodgers just treating him like a peasant. Like, don't talk to me.
Yeah,
who are you?
I don't even know who you. It's like week 6, and like Arthur Smith comes in the room, tries to tell him to do something. He's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Get the fuck out of here!
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Do you have a visitor's pass?"
Well, critically acclaimed actor, best known for playing Matthew McConaughey's father in Failure to Launch, Mr. Terry Bradshaw, was quite candid on his thoughts about the Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh situation. He said, "That's a joke. That is just to me is a joke." And he said this in an interview with 103.7 The Buzz in Arkansas. He said, "What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California, go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there." That was a direct quote. I actually pulled that audio clip from 103.7 The Buzz. It was Terry Bradshaw. And ironically enough, we joke about Trevor Lawrence being Sarah Jessica Parker. Sarah Jessica Parker was also in the movie Failure to Launch, by the way. So I just thought I'd bring that up. But yeah, Terry Bradshaw thinks that Aaron Rodgers, it's a joke for everybody sitting here speculating that he will end up with the Steelers, and that would be a terrible decision for the Steelers. I don't know if they have any other decisions left unless they roll Mason Rudolph out as their quarterback. Like, what else you do?
Yeah.
I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point. Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the Steelers this season. He will.
Maybe. Because
I don't think it's even a maybe. I think he went in there, it was like 2 months ago, and spent multiple days there, like 8-hour days there, having conversations with them, talking with them, and then just left, and they're like, no, you're not our guy. And you're looking at the roster, and you're like, okay, we have a whole lot of nothing here. The only reason Aaron Rodgers has not signed with the Steelers is because he doesn't want to do OTAs. He doesn't want the media. He wants to go on his little ayahuasca trip and the Steelers don't want all the media attention about Aaron Rodgers is missing OTAs to go on an ayahuasca trip. They're not talking about it right now because he's doing it because he's not signed to a team. So nobody's sitting here saying he's missing camp. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. He doesn't have to because he's not signed to a team. And they will sign him once he gets back from his ayahuasca trip and we get closer to the start of the NFL season. There is zero doubt in my mind that Aaron Rodgers will not be wearing a white jersey with the Steelers logo on it to begin the season.
The only thing that's going to keep that from happening is there is one constant about Aaron Rodgers, and that it is that he is unpredictable. So I agree that the Steelers are going to want to sign Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers actually wants to play football anymore.
You don't think
so?
so?
I don't know that. I don't know. I think that if he's in the NFL, he's going to be on the Steelers. But I do see a world where he just goes on Joe Rogan or whatever and says, yeah, fuck it, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm moving on to the next thing where I need to go meditate in South America, and I can't deal with Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith. Like, I don't want to do it. I could see that happening. So
he does have
I think
rapport
you're right.
with Mike Tomlin too, though, and this was a couple years ago. They were on. I can't remember what show. It might have been our Hard Knocks or something. Where like they were jesting at each other, and they both have stated they have an immense amount of respect for each other. This was when Rodgers was still with the Packers, and so like they have some rapport there, and they like each other. I think it's going to happen. I don't see a world in which it doesn't, and everybody's just kind of under that premise that he will be there, and I think that is going to be the case.
It's the other constant about Aaron Rodgers. It is fucking amazing how good he is at just living in our heads. Like he manipulates the NFL media. He's just and I don't even know if it's intentional. It's just his personality. It's like he's just like, because everyone says, oh, he just waits to make decisions because he likes everyone speculating about him in the media. I don't even know if it's intentional. I think he just kind of does whatever he wants, and just by virtue of him being Aaron Rodgers, it's just everyone wants to talk about it, or doesn't want to talk about it, but either way, it gets talked about. I don't know. It's
we're doing it here, and it's June. We've been talking about Aaron Rodgers quite a bit this offseason, and it still continues to happen. He's an enigma. I think that's the bottom line, and I do think he will be with the Steelers. Do you think that he will be with the Steelers?
I would lean toward yes.
Give me a percentage. Because I'm putting mine at like 97%.
I'd probably put mine at like 75. Okay. But that's the thing, is that you say 97%, but if you see a headline tomorrow that says Aaron Rodgers quits football and he's done forever, that's not going to surprise you. At this point in his career,
it would surprise me. It genuinely would surprise me. That's why I have it at 97%. Because I do think I would be very surprised if that was the case. Because he stated he wants to play football. And you look at, and obviously people change their mind every day, but like he went to the Jets thinking he was when he met with the Jets that they were going to talk about his future there, and all of a sudden the rug got pulled out from under him, and he's like, why the hell did you fly me out here? And that whole thing that happened earlier.
The difference between the Jets though and every other team is the Jets at that point, when he first signed with them, there was so much optimism because it's like Aaron Rodgers, the Packers were moving on. Aaron Rodgers, still has potential to be an elite quarterback. The Jets are a crazy talented roster. Like, they have all of these huge weapons and huge names. Like, if he wasn't able to find success with the Jets, I'm not sure he can find success anywhere else. And he knows that. Like, he knows the reason he chose the Jets is because the path forward was clear and the opportunities were endless. It's not that way with the Steelers. So it's not going to surprise me if he says, listen, I had a really hard time with the Jets, and that was like best case scenario. Going to the Steelers, a team that barely breaks 500 for the last 2 decades, it's like, I don't know if I want to be a part of it.
Maybe Tomlin's playing 3D chess here, and he's selling Aaron Rodgers a gourmet meal of, we're going to be a playoff contending team this year. And in the back of Tomlin's mind, he says, if I bring Rodgers in and we tank, A, we have good capital to potentially hit on a quarterback, and B, I now have a scapegoat in the event that people are trying to out me from my job, and I can, we have a very clear media outlet that's going to showcase Aaron Rodgers failing us, and I'm saved for yet another year. Which I don't think Tomlin's a problem to begin with, and I think that would be a very large game of 3D chess if he was going to go that far. But do we want to scrap that off the table as not a possibility?
I think Tomlin, if they don't make the playoffs this year, I think Tomlin's gone.
I'll take him.
Like, instantly.
I'll take him.
I agree with you. I would take him too, but the Steelers are at a point where the 500 seasons have screwed them because they can't get any draft capital. They can't make anything happen because they're always middle of the pack.
Not Tomlin's
they just
fault.
have to make a change.
Not Tomlin's fault.
That's
an organization. If you need a quarterback that bad, leverage some of your future draft capital and go get yourself a damn quarterback.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but the problem is at some point you got to make changes. And at some point you look at Mike Tomlin and say, we've given you everything we got. You're not crossing the threshold. We got to make a change. If anything, to just suck for a while so we can rebuild and get the next Justin Jefferson or get the next Patrick Mahomes. Like, you need to have an opportunity to do that. And I think he's going to be gone. I think Steelers fans love him. They'll always respect him. I think the organization loves him, but I think it's going to be a mutual parting of ways if this season tanks. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to change that, whether he's on the roster or not.
I think he'll actively help the tanking process. I do, because I don't think he's a good quarterback anymore. I don't think he's got what it takes to I think if they go over 500, it would be in spite of having Aaron Rodgers on the roster, not because they have Aaron Rodgers on the roster. But I mean, we've seen that for the last few years where they have the Kenny Pickett's and the Russell Wilsons, and they're going over 500. And it's like, well, and we're talking about Russell Wilson. Let's bring him up. Russell Wilson says he has a chance to return the Giants to the highest level. Okay. How many games did they win last season? Giants wins last season. It wasn't a lot. I think it was 3 games is where my mind went.
It doesn't matter who the quarterback is for the Giants. It doesn't. Like, this is just a team that is not equipped to win right now. That's just the fact. You know, if you could pluck Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen and put them on the Giants, and they're still going to be a subpar team.
They went 3-14 last year.
That's the level that you have to reach. And Russell Wilson, you know, I like him. He's a Hall of Famer. His success is stained with the Seahawks defense that I think was primarily the reason for their success throughout his heyday. And we've seen him now. Granted, he's older, of course. He's a little bit less mobile. But not only has he been bad at football, but he's been an embarrassment in the NFL because of his personality and the way he carries himself and the stupid shit that he does. And it's like, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he's intelligent. But there is nobody less equipped to bring the Giants from the gates of hell than Russell Wilson. Nobody. It's crazy.
There is one person who I think could do it, and they have the player.
Okay.
Jameis Winston. Bring us home, baby. Laser Jameis. I really want him to win the job over Russell Wilson. But to be quite honest with you, I don't think it doesn't matter who it is that starts the season, because I think Jackson Dart will come in week 5, week 6, somewhere right around there.
If that. Honestly, everything we're seeing now shows that they love Jackson Dart. It really seems that way. It seems like they have a huge amount of faith in Jackson Dart. Like, it would not surprise me if he just starts the year. And honestly, I wouldn't hate that decision because your options are subpar. And on top of that, you know Jackson Dart could be the greatest quarterback in the history of the world, and you're still probably not going to be very good. So get him the experience. Put him out there, get him the experience, and let's try and make something happen and grow this quarterback. The problem for Jackson Dart, of course, is all of the uncertainty with Brian Dable, all of the uncertainty with Joe Shane. Like, this entire organization could flip upside down, and Jackson Dart next year could be in a Caleb Williams situation where, guess what, you're surrounded by an entirely new staff and you got to start from scratch. Like, that could happen. Probably
yeah,
will.
no, and I think it's quite likely unless they do find success. And I think that even, I mean, they went 3-14 last year, so nobody's sitting here saying the Giants are going to go to the playoffs. That's a far reach. But they got Malik Neighbors. They have Jackson Dart. They have a conglomeration of other wide receivers that are sometimes playing and sometimes not. But if they show signs of life and Jackson Dart can prove that, okay, I am the guy, I am coachable and growable and moldable into a franchise quarterback, and maybe they go 5 and whatever, 5 and what is it, 12, 5 and 13, something like that. If they have even if they go 3-14 again, but Jackson Dart shows that, okay, he's learning, he's grasping it. Do we think that Brian Dable is given another year?
Yeah, that I don't know. Honestly, one of the biggest reasons why I'm pessimistic about Brian Dable's future there is Hard Knocks. And watching the owner, I forget his name, just he was like damn near ready to jump off a bridge when the Saquon thing happened.
His own fault.
Think partially. I think he is at the point now where he didn't really want Saquon to go, but he trusted his guys. He hired these people to make decisions, make the hard choices. He trusted his guys. Saquon, of course, goes to the Eagles, wins the Super Bowl, like, is the best running back in football.
He's on the Madden cover.
Yeah, on the Madden cover. Like, it just never ends. Like, that one decision is just living rent-free in his head forever. And I really do think that one decision is, that combined with the fact that his team is ass, that really is putting him very close to just being like, everybody's fired, pretty much no matter what. Like, unless they massively overperform and Jackson Dart's amazing and they somehow make the playoffs or whatever. But I think it's very likely that the owner's just like, we're done, we're restarting from scratch. So I think you're going to have to see some pretty exceptional play on the field to prevent that from happening. And again, I'm a guy who does not think Brian Daboll should be fired. I think you put him in the right situation, he could be great. But
let's
I do think it's pretty likely.
Jackson Dart plays maybe like Bo Nix did last year, where we know Bo Nix is going to be there for a while. We know Bo Nix is the guy. Did he come in and light the league up like Jaden Daniels did? No. But we know that Bo Nix is a good quarterback. We know that, and we hope that we see some progression from him. In the event that we have kind of a Bo Nix-esque season from Jackson Dart, do you think that's enough to weigh the odds in Daboll's favor? Because I lean towards yes.
Yeah, I think if he plays, if we leave the season with the same impression that we have for Bo Nix, or that the same impression we have with Drake May, then I think that's the threshold that has to be met. If you are any less than that, I think it's pretty likely that everybody's fired. If we, even Caleb Williams statistically had a great year, but the expectations were really high, so it's probably not a great comparison. But even Caleb Williams, like, I do think that Caleb Williams is going to be really good. I do think that the Bears are going to take a big step forward and be really competitive at a high level. But if you were to ask me, which quarterback do I have more confidence in to be successful over the long term, over the course of their career, I think I'm going to pick Bo Nix over Caleb Williams. I think I'm going to pick Drake May. And so I do think you have to reach that extra threshold of confidence in someone like Jackson Dart to be like, okay, we're going to stick with this path and stick with these people. And honestly, it's just not, I don't really see it happening.
How scary that would be? If you were Brian Daboll, like think about this. Let's just say hypothetically they roll Jackson Dart out week 1. Jackson Dart is a mobile quarterback. He will take off and run with his legs. Week 3, knee injury. He's out for the rest of the year. I mean, if you're Brian Daboll, you're like, dude, I could have had the guy. Like, this could have been it. We could have had a good run here. You think about it. You're on thin ice, buddy. You're one injury away from potentially being done with the Giants, which I don't think is the right call either, by the way. I really don't.
Honestly, I don't think – I think if the situation pans out and Brian Daboll gets fired, I think he's going to be like, okay, that's fine.
No, I think he probably will be, because he's like, this was a shit show of a situation. Get me out of here. He can go be an OC somewhere and do really well. I'll take him over the Cardinals. Come on over. I'll take Tomlin 100%. And Daboll, and we'll have a super team. We'll get this thing figured out. Come on over to Arizona. We'll take you.
Can you imagine if you went to the Chiefs? Brian Daboll and Andy Reid belly bumping in the end zone of the Super Bowl.
Fucking chowing on cheeseburgers together. Although Daboll lost a lot of weight. I think he's...
Yeah, he did. It's less cool now.
He's hit the Ozempic pretty hard.
You know it's Ozempic, or maybe...
No, that's just speculation from everybody.
From everyone, yeah. Everybody's usually right, too. So
they are. He looks good, though.
But he did look good. He looked a lot better. Although
he looks like a respectable man, like somebody that you just have, when he walks into the room, you respect him.
But you kind of want your football coach to be in one of two camps, which is Dan Campbell or Andy Reid. Like, those are the two body types that you want for your head football coach. You want him to be like, this guy.
Well, we know Brian Daboll has the Andy Reid within him. We've seen it.
He's got the potential is sky high.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to be willing to accept that, and it seems like he's not willing to accept it. Because he took Ozempic or whatever.
Allegedly.
Which is disappointing, honestly. Allegedly. That's my least favorite thing about Brian Daboll, is that he lost weight. Everything else is great.
On? Well, he probably did it, to like stay alive longer and those kind of things.
You only live once. You might as well be awesome.
You might as well be tubby.
Yeah, send it. When you're a middle-aged married man, send it.
Send it.
That's prime time. There is no better time to send it, especially when you're not, when you're 80, you can't get fat because you die. But when you're 40 or 50, like, you can get fat and you'll still live for a while. Pretty good.
Brian Daboll's wife is named Beth. I don't like that.
I don't mind the name Beth. I think that's pretty nice. Classy.
She looks like a nice woman, though.
All right.
I'd shake her hand. All right, that's all the time we have here today. Ladies and gentlemen, all you brainiacs, you dirty old nasty freaks, thanks for tuning in for another episode this week. We genuinely appreciate it. Before we hop off the mic here, I do want to let everybody know, go once again, check out all of our social media platforms and hit that follow button, as well as all of your podcast platforms, YouTube, TikTok, all of it. Go over there and hit the subscribe button. And if you're also generous, leave us a 5-star review. We have Fantasy Brains Thursday. Every Thursday, they are releasing content for fantasy football. Right now, it is Dynasty season. So for all you fantasy football freaks, such as myself, never stops. And we are producing content over there. They are doing a wonderful job over producing Dynasty and fantasy football content Thursdays. And that is on all of the LeatherBrainz platforms. So go give it a follow. I appreciate you guys. Scotty, let us get the heck out of here. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out LeatherBrainz.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.